Hello, once again. I would like to take this time to re-examine the economic crisis, to throw it into sharper focus with respect to the grossly irresponsible mismanagement as a response by our government. I will try to explain the reasons why they have chosen this highly inappropriate and completely antithetical to our capitalist free market system, I might add, action. The thing you would like to keep in mind here is that it's probably not a coincidence at all that both Bush and Obama have taken the same highly irresponsible positions and subsequent actions. It's only the specific presentation that is different. In the case of Bush, he took the completely antithetical anti-capitalist bank bailout action that cannot be more patently absurd. The administration did a fine job on PR spin to the American people, explaining how this was utterly necessary for the very survival of our economy, and if it was not done, we could not survive. This is simply not true at all. But, surprise, surprise, from the same people who sold you on Iraq, on the WMD lie, and a host of other bullshit, including 9/11 and any number of other artificial terrorist events that were likely to have been orchestrated and designed by these very same people. So, if it not be the case, then why exactly did he do it and make such a case for it? That is, the bank bailout. Well, let's look at the pros and the cons. If the banks were allowed to fail as was expected, what would that mean exactly in truth, and who would stand to lose and who to gain? Well, first of all, the extremely wealthy and the super rich would be devastated by all accounts, as they stand to lose the most. Under the FDIC deposits, we would be protected up to $100,000 in any case, so the average Joe would not lose his deposits under $100,000. Let's use this anecdote to explain how it might work. Okay, so let's say you got a guy who has $85,000 on deposit in one bank account and $65,000 in another bank account. Each of these are insured and protected, so he loses nothing. Additionally, this guy has an outstanding debt in the amount of $145,000 in loans, credit cards, college tuition, etc. Well, all of the $145,000 would disappear as well. So for the 90% of the population, this bank failure is not entirely a bad idea. His deposits are returned in full and his debt is absolved. Wow, a new start. Exactly the reason for the bailout. It ensures the chains of debt and its slavery upon the people to maintain control over their lives, and preserves the vast wealth of the super rich. Does this make any sense to you now? Okay, moving on to Obama, we see his insane response in the form of a massive Rooseveltian stimulus disaster that delivers a 1-2 punch for the knockout. I swear, this is a coordinated effort. They are cooked up together and completely ensure the total collapse of our system and attempt to micromanage its impact. It would appear to me that they quite obviously intend to do this, or perhaps they know it's unavoidable in any case, so they have elected to take these actions for the purpose of carefully controlling it and its impact and delivery, holding the wolf by its ears, if you will. It's an unlikely prospect, but you might succeed at it for a bit, and then, well, he's getting away from you. What's clear is that both these leaders and their respective policies are a fraud, and the public are buying it all. So, this so-called stimulus is going to be a massive failure, as we only need to look at history to show this. They have elected to repeat precisely the very same idea that Roosevelt did in 32, like they literally copied it letter from letter, and his was a colossal train wreck. That is not only that it failed, but worse, exacerbated and deepened the depression and throwing us into super depression. So ask yourself, why are they doing this? The 1-2 punch, I said. So the second knockout blow that Obama is delivering us along with the stimulus abortion, is the means by which we will pay for it. Print vast sums of paper money out of thin fucking air, thanks to the partner in crime, the godfathers of criminal enterprise themselves, the what? Federal Reserve banking system. These crooks are the reason we're in this shit in the first fucking place. And that we would look and turn to these people to fix the situation, you have got to be joking. What is this madness? Is the whole country completely retarded? Is the vast majority of the public at large completely ignorant to the system and how it works? If we were anywhere else in the world, the Federal Reserve would be considered a criminal enterprise and not allowed to operate at all. We need very extreme and radical change in our country's economic apparatus. The only way we will ever free ourselves from the slavery and control of the Federal Reserve System is to demand we eliminate it and replace it with some form of gold standard that Jefferson, Jackson, and Lincoln all fought very hard for, and Lincoln, in fact, lost his life for that. Check your history books, people. The most prosperous years in American history, with an unparalleled 4% GDP expansion every year, was the period post-Civil War and pre-1914 Federal Reserve establishment. Nearly 35 years of unprecedented growth and real prosperity, gold standard responsibility. After 1914, it's been one devastation after another, as we'll continue with this phony economic house of cards. That is the year that the Federal Reserve System was established. Finally, after many attempts to put it into place, originally Hamilton had this idea in place at the very beginning of our country's history until Jefferson became president several years later and disassembled it. It was only in practice for about 10 years because Jefferson knew how awful a central Federal Reserve apparatus such as the one we have is and how dangerous it is, and exactly for the reason that it's doing right now. He knew that, and Andrew Jackson knew this also, and desperately fought very hard to eliminate that possibility at that time later in his presidency, and succeeded in doing so as well. Then, of course, it was reinserted during the Civil War because of, unfortunately, Lincoln being opposed to it, but because of the need to finance the war, and from the Union perspective, he elected to do it and print what were called greenbacks during the Civil War. During that, and then after the Civil War, insisted to dismantle it, and that was how he lost his life, essentially. I very strongly recommend and advocate a civil revolution in this country. Our forefathers, revolutionaries themselves, clearly explained to us the reasons for revolution and even expressed that in the future it would be very likely necessary to rise up again in the face of tyranny to redeem and reclaim our rights and freedoms they themselves fought so courageously to provide us. Take back your country, open your eyes to the bullshit, and resist this oppression. It's only going to get worse and worse and worse. This is a systematic dismantling of your civil rights and freedoms, and it's economic slavery. You can thank the Federal Reserve and the criminals that run it for all of this madness and everything that is happening to you. You just have to look at some of the facts in a basic and logical way to understand very clearly that none of this is an accident or a mistake, and this is all by design. Really, think carefully and very hard. Study your history and learn the truth about what's going on. Wake up and resist. Revolution, people. Revolution.